welcome back. So for today's video, I have something of a little bit of a different thing. I'm going to be starting a little bit of a mini-series. I've started a book club with one of my old roommates from college. We both live on opposite sides of the country now, but especially with the social distancing, we still wanted to be able to do things like read and like interact with other people. So we've got a Facebook group and we're reading a book, and we'll probably keep doing it after the social distancing and stuff too, but at least to get it started, here we are. So the book we've chosen is The Woman in Cabin 10. We're going to try to read it in sections over the course of about a month. Our first section is technically chapters 1 through 9, but since this book is divided into 8 parts, I figured I'd start by my review on part 1, and then as a heads up, since this will be a little bit of a series and a little more in-depth, there will be a few spoilers along the way because I want to share my thoughts throughout each part and kind of see how this goes to do a more in-depth kind of review. So, I have gotten through part 1 of this so far. So just some general overall thoughts. I really hate the character's name. Her name is Lo, just L-O. So I mean, at the very least, it's not the word Lo, L-O-W, but every time someone uses her name, I'm like, this is not a name. This doesn't even sound like a nickname. This is stupid. I hate this. So that's been like my biggest annoyance with her. Some of the other people in my group have been complaining that she's like an alcoholic and kind of crazy, which is fair, but it's not annoying to me like it's annoying to them, so that's been kind of funny. Some other things that I wanted to mention, I do appreciate the opening scene of this book. It really gets you into some action and wanting to be invested in the story because it starts with a burglary. So getting your house burgled is a great way to start a book, I guess. It was very engaging for me, at least. And so I hope that as some of the suspenseful things on this cruise that happens get going, that they'll be just as engaging as all that. I will say, though, that the cruise concept itself is very strange in this book because the cruise ship is designed to have 10 rooms for passengers, so up to 20 people at a time can be passengers on this ship, which when I was first picturing it, I was like, what the heck? I know of cruise ships that can have like 500 plus people. Why would you be so extravagant as to just have 10 rooms on this ship? But when it was finally described, she said it was more like yacht-sized, but then it's still supposed to have like a huge dining room and like a parlor and all these other rooms and things in it. So it still sounds like it's bigger than even a yacht would be. So I don't know why she said it was yacht-sized. It sounds like it's definitely not cruise ship-sized, but also not yacht-sized. So that was a little confusing to me. Also, it kind of sounds like the magazine that she works for is more of like a low-level, not very popular magazine. So on this exclusive of a cruise ship, I don't know how her magazine got in on having a journalist on this ship in the first place. So a few little kind of more nitpicky things from it, I guess. Just a few specific things. After she's been burgled in the first few scenes, I've written it down as page 13 in my copy, but it might be different in other versions because I don't know if all versions are formatted the same. But anyways, on page 13 of this one, a police presence comes after they've kind of already taken her statement and they'd come back for some reason. I don't remember why. But he sees the disarray that's in her house and he's like, ha ha ha, did you get burgled again? And I'm like, well, what is this reaction? Why are you laughing at her potentially having been burgled? You know, whether it's, you know, just leftover mess or whatever, why are you laughing at this? This is not an appropriate way to behave as a police officer, and I did not like it or understand why that would be his response. No concern, just laughter. Really weird. Yeah. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, so on page 24, she's ended up going over to her boyfriend's house because she can't sleep at her house, which is kind of understandable. She's having some fairly severe PTSD-related type things after having been burgled. Makes sense. But she goes over to her boyfriend's house. He's not home because he's been on a trip in Ukraine or Russia or something. And so she double-checks that he doesn't have anyone staying in his house. And then she proceeds to take off all her clothes and wander around his apartment naked. I was like, what is this scene? Why are you doing this? I understand being like comfortable in his house, but why would you just want to wander around naked? Maybe that's just not a personality trait that I have, and other people do just wander around houses naked, but it seemed weird to me. I mean, especially if there is a chance that there could be someone who was like sleeping or something when you got there and they didn't hear you come in and they could find you, which kind of then happens when her boyfriend gets home because she's been like screaming in her sleep, so he's trying to wake her up. She mistakes him for another man attacking her, kind of like what happened with the burglary. She ends up overreacting and knocking a lamp into his face, which knocks one of his teeth out, so he's like bleeding and they have to go get that fixed in the emergency room and all this, and I'm like, you know, if you didn't go to people's houses without telling them and things like that, you probably wouldn't have this issue. To be fair, he probably could have woken her up differently because I don't know if it was part of her PTSD or how he was actually trying to wake her up, but she said that she could hear the screaming, which ended up being her, and she wasn't quite aware of it because she was half asleep. But then along with that she could feel like a man pressing down on her face and stuff, and I'm like, that's probably not the way you should try to wake this girl up, Judah. Just a thought. So I don't know if that was actually the way he was trying to wake her up, or if she was like panic dreaming that and he was trying to wake her up some other way. But he was definitely right by her, and he got a lamp knocked into his face over his efforts. So poor kid. And then after all that, he talks to her and wants her to move in with him, especially because of the burglary and just because he wants to live with her and they've been together and whatever. And he wants that, and she's all waffly about it. And it's like, I don't know if I'm ready, and all this. And then the next morning, it comes up that he had, like, well, I think it was that night, he also mentioned that he had been in New York, and he rejected a job offer there because he wanted to be with her. He specifically says that he wants to be with her. And then on, like, pretty much at the very next page, the next morning, she's like thinking it over, and she's like, did he really do all this for me? And I'm like, he told you that he did. How stupid can you be? You stupid girl. And then she basically ends up breaking up with him, or it seemed like she was breaking up with him because she was like, I just can't handle this, I can't move in with you, etc. She walks out, but then we get confirmation that she's emailing him and wanting him to email her and stuff while on this trip. And so it's like, I don't know why that didn't end up as an official breakup, because you two clearly are on different pages over this relationship. But I guess if you still care for each other, maybe it'll work out okay. But the part does end on a bit of a cliffhanger too, because we end with Judah's email. And his email was basically like, hey, I haven't heard from you since Sunday. Are you doing all right? It's like Tuesday or something. And so it's like, ooh, a little bit of intrigue. Maybe she just doesn't have service. Maybe it's because of the suspenseful things that this book is promising me. I can't wait to find out. And then we get a similar one. It also ends with an email from her boss, because she's supposed to be writing a paper or article or whatever about this cruise ship. That's why their magazine has a presence there and whatnot. And they're like, hey, you haven't sent us anything about this. Can you send us something? Let us know where you're at with this. And so they haven't heard from her either. So it's a lot of mystery and intrigue, and I'm really excited to get into part 2. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on part 1. If you guys happen to have read this, no spoilers. Other than in part 1, because I will be doing a complete series on all of it, and I don't want to be spoiled until I get there. But yeah, if you've read it too, let me know. I'd be happy to have people reading along with me too, so if you want to join in on this, read part 1 and leave your own comments and thoughts on it too. That'd be super fun. And if you want to keep reading for the next ones, obviously part 2 of this book will be what's coming up next. So that's all I've got for now. But this is the Umlaut Harper signing out.